Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Your Family Dog, a podcast dedicated to helping families love living with dogs.
Welcome back to the Your Family Dog podcast. I'm joined today by the smart and pretty Julie Fudge Smith and our amazing guest, someone I've been waiting to bring to you, Aishlyn Skoczylas. I think I got it. Ooh, those Polish names. Who is a dog trainer friend of mine who has a baby who's turning 1 on Saturday. And so we thought we would have a little chitty chat about what it's been like, what her expectations were, and kind of how that's ended up comparing to real life and things she wishes she knew or wish she had known, or any of it, any of the perspectives of having a baby with dogs, even as a trainer. So welcome to the podcast, Aishlyn.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, Aishlyn, yes, we're very excited to have you on board. Could you just give us a little bit of background? Like, how many dogs? Do you have one dog, two dogs? Did you have both dogs when you had the baby? Or did you have a dog, have a baby, then get another dog? Which would be a real challenge, if you ask me. That would be an incredibly brave thing to do, I think. So could you just give us a little bit of background? And can you also tell us a little bit about perhaps what you thought it was going to be like and what the reality was, if they differ at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So before I had my daughter, when I found out I was pregnant, I currently had 2 dogs. And my fiance had a dog. We actually didn't live together at the time. So before I had the baby, I had 2 dogs, one who was around 7 years old. I still have her. And the other who was much younger. She's a Chihuahua mix. She's just she just turned 2 this year. So she was 1.5. She was an adolescent. But we had to integrate before our baby was born. My partner's old dog, who was 15, and my 2 younger dogs while I was pregnant before baby was born. So that's kind of what we were dealing with.
If I understand correctly, you only have 2 dogs at this point. Did your partner's dog pass on?
Yes, he was a very old man.
Did that happen before or after the baby was born?
After. So he was around when she came home up until she was right about 10, 11 months old.
Okay, so this is an interesting situation to me because it seems to me you have 3 different lifestyles of dogs. You have the old gentleman, you have the adult dog, and you have an adolescent. So that gives you 3 different phases of dogdom to deal with a brand new baby. So who did you find to be the most challenging with the baby?
Actually, it was the adult, the 7-year-old. She's a 40-ish pound pit mix, just a good old mutt. She was probably she's very well trained. I put a lot of work into her over her lifespan. But the reason she needed so much work was because she is not a very confident dog. New things scared her. People really used to scare her, especially kids. So I went into this knowing that she does not love kids. Because of how much work we put into it, she can tolerate being around them. But there was not a fear, but very much so a caution. Very slow introduction process when we were preparing for a baby to come home. So she was probably the hardest. The old man, he was very much so the kind of old dog that just kind of loves everybody. Never had really much of an issue with. And then the adolescent is extremely people friendly. So we never really had much of an issue with her either, other than trying to lick baby's mouth.
Yes, that can be an issue. So, can you talk a little bit about what you did with the adult dog and how it's great that you understood what you had going in. That is one of the things that I think we as dog trainers find really challenging, is that oftentimes people don't understand the dog that they have. And our job as trainers is to help people love the dog they actually have, not the dog they think they have. So fortunately, you knew the kind of dog you had and you knew what her limitations, the middle dog,
The
girl, you knew her limitations. So how did you work with their limitations and respect her needs, as well as being able to take care of a baby? That must have been a challenge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To begin with, we took things extremely slowly. And fortunately, as dog trainers, having come into it, there were a lot of things that I knew I wanted her to be able to do. Basic obedience was, of course, a must. I think, for really any situation, bringing a baby home, I wanted to be able to make sure that I could set her up for success, and take things slow, not push her, not put baby in danger. So one of the biggest things that we worked on was settling, just relaxing, in the home, so I can still include her, because that's very important to me to be able to include her in everyday, life with the baby when, she came home. Um, and so we really introduced baby gates. Before that, we hadn't had gates, in the house, teaching her how to respect that baby gate boundary, even if she physically could jump over it. Teaching her to respect them, implementing tethers around the house, really focusing on teaching her, place and how to settle on her place, so that when baby came home, I could go, hey, or the dog's name is Noir. Noir, you lay over here. I'm going to take care of baby. You can watch, right? Baby's not going to come near you. Baby's not going to be put in danger. I'm going to give you a Kong, let you enjoy, your enrichment toy, work your mind in a positive way while baby is over here. I'm taking care of baby, so that she's included, right? I'm fortunate. I think sometimes, we just want to, put dog in a crate, not have to deal with, scary introductions or introductions too soon. So we went really slow.
Great. I do have a question. Is Noir black? Is she a black dog?
She is.
Okay, I was going to say, nobody names a dog Noir without it being a dark color. So anyway,
She kind of looks like Anubis.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And she has the best resting grouchy face ever. Like, even when she's super happy, she always looks miffed. Like, she's really funny.
That was kind of like my mother-in-law. But okay. Not really. That's a joke. But she did tend to be a little more serious.
I mean, I have a grouchy face when I'm thinking.
I do too. People always mistake, are you mad? No, I'm thinking. So anyway, Tina, your turn for a question.
So, Aishlyn, what do you wish you had known that you weren't prepared for?
How good it could be. Really, all the, the work pays off. There was, of course, there's a lot of fear and anxieties going into it. And there are, things that I wish I had known, beforehand. Maybe I should have done this or asked for more help exercising the dogs. But really, the biggest thing is how, wonderful it is to see that relationship between dog and kid grow. With her being almost a year now and have gone slowly in the beginning, Noir loves fetch. And because we did all of these really slow, positive things and not go like, hey, here's a baby in your face. And of course, baby being around dogs is not afraid of dogs. She will bring the ball over to baby. Ball's covered in dirt. Baby takes it, tosses it on the ground already. They already have that relationship starting to build. And I think that's, that even with all the struggles that happened, even, being a dog trainer and knowing the things I know and experiences, having a dog that may be a little bit more difficult to integrate into, a family with very young kids with a baby, that is something I think I wish I'd known a little bit more of the positive side of it, that you can do it and putting the work in, you can get that really nice relationship.
Well, lucky you. That's it's funny, when I first had kids, I thought to myself, I'm really prepared for the fact it's going to be a lot of work and I'm going to lose a lot of sleep and everything's going to be fine. But nobody told me how much fun it was going to be. And I just was like, wow, parenting is a lot more fun than I anticipated. I anticipated the work and the sleeplessness, but I didn't anticipate the fun. So I'm really glad that worked out so well for you. If you were to give advice to other new moms, especially if they are not dog trainers, what would be the kind of thing that you would say to them when they find out that they're pregnant and they have a dog in the house?
Start now. Don't put it off. I mean, yes, you're preparing for a baby, so there's so much going on. I mean, we love our animals and our dogs, and um, it is possible to integrate them in a calm way to your baby. For me, the biggest thing was teaching anything to do with baby means calm. Um, so I guess my biggest piece of advice is just really sit down and think what matters to you, and what you want that to look like. It's really taking safety into consideration. If you have, like my younger dog, she's small, but she's very excited about just about everything. And so with her, the biggest thing was teaching her to, and walk was confident. This thing is a scary dragon. Vega, the smaller little chihuahua who's the adolescent, it was, hey, let's relax, not jump into this baby's skin, because we're super excited about how cute and tasty this little thing is. Um, yeah, so I think probably my biggest piece of advice would be to start really thinking about like what you want to expect from your dogs, so that you can put into a plan. Like, okay, if I want my dog to be able to relax around baby, my dog needs to be able to relax before baby. And then when baby comes home, just take it slow. You don't have to, baby comes home immediately, like, hey dog, here's, the new thing that's gonna live with us. Um, and it can, I mean, take a week or two to bond with baby. And, if you have help, ask for help. Ask for somebody to come around and, can you throw the ball for my dog in the backyard? Can you take him on a walk? Let your dog just exist, in the same environment as baby, smell baby, hear baby, and allow yourself some time to recover. I was fortunate enough to just have, a vaginal birth, but if you're recovering from a C-section, that's much longer. And so to kind of prepare for those things, really beforehand going, what does my dog need to know? And putting in a plan of action, how do we get there?
And do you think about that moving forward into this second year? Like, I'm pretty sure, like, you're on top of stuff. I'm pretty sure you're working a to-do list of what you're working for toward this second year of development and beyond.
Oh yeah, definitely. She's starting to move now. She wants to chase after the dogs, which is something that she was not doing beforehand. Which is much more nerve-wracking for Noir. And really being vigilant, right? If baby's on the floor and the dogs are comfortable, with baby being in the space now, not letting Delilah is her name, go up to Noir's bed, right? And not letting her crawl into the dog's bed and invade Noir's space. Really advocating for the dog to show that, hey, you can trust me to keep this little tiny gremlin away from you. And you teach, your baby, like, this is how we respect other dogs. So yes, yeah, it's going to be really big on, making sure, one, teaching Delilah, the baby, how to start, respecting dog space, and showing Noir that just because she's moving now, and she's a little bit bigger and louder and making different noises, that she's still not scary.
I was thinking of a couple of things when you were talking. One of the things that Colleen Pilar, who was my first podcast wife, Tina's my second podcast wife. Anyway, one of the things that Colleen always recommends for baby showers, if you know that the person has a dog, one of the nice things to do is to show up with 7 stuffed Kongs for each dog, so that the person can put it into a freezer. And actually, Colleen's philosophy is on Sunday afternoons, she stuffs 8 Kongs. So she has 1 a day and a spare if she needs it. So I kind of think that would be something to recommend to people too, is for each size dog, because the Noir is not going to have the same size as the little one. Enough stuffed Kongs in the freezer for each dog, 1 a day. And if somebody says, what can I do to help? That would be a lovely thing to say, hey, could you come on over and, spend a half an hour stuffing these Kongs for me? The other thing that we found to work, I have 9 grandkids. And so I have a fair number of anywhere from 2 to 15. And so we've had a lot of different ages of kids around a lot of different ages of dogs. And we've made some mistakes and we've done some things really well. But one of the things that we have found to be surprisingly helpful is when I have lots of little boy grandkids who love to play with trucks and cars and stuff like that. So what we'll do is at our cottage is we set the X pen up around the living room rug, and they play inside the X pen so the dogs can't get to their cars and stuff. And so, or pick them up or chew them or whatever. And so it's not, in this sense, it's not crating the dog. It's like crating the kids almost, but, setting up a separate play space where the dogs can lie on the other side of the pen and they look at the dogs, and occasionally we'll throw them treats or whatever. But you can be creative in how you divide up your space. It doesn't have to necessarily be isolating the dog from everybody, but it could be setting up a separate area that's, an X-Pen's friendly. You can see through it. You can talk through it, that kind of thing. And so that kind of thing I would also recommend is take a look at the idea of setting up a creative space for everybody. Have you tried something like that?
Yes, actually, not in the house. Unfortunately, our downstairs area is a little small. But I'm fortunate enough to have a fenced-in backyard. We have what we call our outdoor baby pen, where we will take my daughter when she was old enough to kind of sit in her little I don't know what they call it. They sit in it and they rotate and play with all the toys. When she was old enough to sit in that, we would sit her in there. She would have her toys, maybe some snacks on the little table, and I'd throw and fetch for the dogs, right? So baby is still there. She's getting the sunshine, doing what she would normally do. But the dogs we can play fetch. They can relax around her. I can scatter some of their food on the ground, have them just eat their food and, from the grass. So yeah, absolutely. Being creative with figuring out ways to manage that space is been a little bit challenging, because you don't want to just set baby in her little walker with all the dogs being able to run around. Right? They might run up to her, lick her, might run up too hard, bust her face. I mean, there's so many things that could happen. So managing that space safely has been a challenge to figure out, which I think is individual to each home. But having baby kind of confined and the dogs out is something that we did that you're absolutely right, has helped a lot too.
So one of the things that I like I said, I do highly recommend X-Pens, and if people don't know what they are, a baby gate is a single unit. An X-Pen tends to have 8 sides that fold, and so you can put it in an octagon or you can stretch it out. Right now I've got one downstairs that we can use to keep the dogs in the kitchen, or I can put around our wood stove. So the kids so the little ones don't have access to the wood stove. So it's really nice to have that flexible unit that can be used in a lot of different ways. Sometimes it's used to corral kids. Sometimes it's used to corral dogs. Sometimes it's used to separate the two. Sometimes it's used to prevent balls from being thrown down the basement stairs yet again. So it can be a really handy thing, and you can get them very easily at Pet Supplies Plus or any of the major stores or on Amazon. But it's nice because it's 8 panels all connected. So I just wanted to explain what an X-Pen was. Sometimes we use this terminology and I suddenly realized, I'm not sure everybody understands all the terms that dog trainers will use. So Tina.
I've used exercise pens to create an airlock too. And Aishlyn's kind of headed into that time where Delilah's really busy. It's easy for Noir to get, so you're at a stage now where you are everyone's lobster, right? If if Delilah and Noir worry each other, they're both going to come to you to solve the problem, right? And then they're like, ew, gross, the other one's here. So there's a lot of airlocks at this stage. So kind of 2 gates or an X pen and then a gate across a doorway that keep Delilah from being able to reach through one barrier and touch the dog on the other side of the barrier. Because I could see Noir kind of being close to the limit of a boundary, a barrier, and then not wanting the baby to reach through it.
No, that's absolutely right. And that is exactly where we're heading. Because Noir, being the clingy little girl she
Sensitive.
is, she sits at the gate and looks at you longingly, like, I wish I could be there. I love my calm. This is delicious. And Delilah, being growing up and being curious,
It's like,
absolutely
hey, what's that?
right, exactly. Whereas Vega, the little tiny chihuahua, might go over and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna lick your face. This is the best thing." Noir is gonna go, "Well, this is my space. I'm a little uncomfortable." And then that can create some tension and potentially safety issues. So yeah, that I didn't know there was a name for it, but airlock. I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, it's where you have a buffer of space between 2 barriers so that there can't be a transfer, right? Like Delilah can't reach Noir and Noir can't reach Delilah. So have you taught Noir, she's so athletic, have you taught her escape the space, go over the baby gate, get ye to the hallway, kind of cues to be able to send her to other parts of the living space when, I don't know, let's say the baby barfs?
Absolutely. Yes. Fortunately, because she is athletic, I can go, hey, go up. You know, and up for her is hop over whatever that is I'm pointing at. And her crate is on the other side of one of our baby gates. So indicating and pointing, hey, go up over the gate, go lay down in your crate. I got to clean up this wall. Um, I gotta clean up this water bowl that she just spilled. And so yes, yeah, that is something that we started doing too. I
I think that's one of the hardest things when our dogs are well trained, they are quite bonded, right? And so being able to get them to move off a little bit so that there is a buffer in space can be confusing for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Having a placemat that she has tons of positive associations with, even Vega. I mean, Vega absolutely loves attention from anybody who's willing to offer it. And so being able to say, hey, baby just threw her food on the floor. You don't necessarily need to eat this. Go lay down on your bed, or go place. Has been super useful. And something that I'm very glad that they know. I did find out, though, that although it was something that was taught to them before baby was born, just like anything, adding that new distraction of baby meant we had to go over it, reteach it, really readdress it and go, hey, place actually means place, lay down.
Yeah, I mean, did you ever practice sitting on the floor and sending them to a placemat in a different section of the house? Like, I would guess most people haven't practiced that.
Right, absolutely.
Or standing at the changing table and sending the dog into another room to go lie down.
Yeah, absolutely. Having their crate, because their crates or their beds are in, like where they sleep, are in a different room. So being able to go, Noir, go lay down in your crate, even if the door is open in another room, was something that we really had to start working on again. Even if, it had previously been something that they had been really good at. Now there's baby threw eggs on the floor. Eggs have, these salt and seasoning. I think that's going to upset dog's tummy. Noir, go lay down in your crate while I clean this up real quick. Which is also something I really had to kind of figure out, which was the balance between taking care of baby, making sure her needs are attended to, taking care of dogs, making sure their needs are attended to, which of course was not easy. But definitely something that I had to kind of really run with and work out on the go. Of course, you can put all the things in place, prepare, what you think you're going to need to prepare. But the kind of mental toll was not, that probably was not something that I was expecting. Because, of course, we love them both so much, dogs, our babies, and want them both to be successful and happy and comfortable. So setting those things, preparing for that mental load of, oh, dogs have to go out now. Oh, but baby, baby needs to eat. How do I manage both of those things at once? Was a learning curve for me.
Right. Well, one of the other things I found too is when I was raising kids and dogs was it was important to me to have my priorities straight as far as, okay, people always come before dogs, the safety of my kids, but also just prioritizing stuff. It's kind of like, just take a deep breath. And you know what? The dusting can wait another day, So just to understand that those kind of priorities are going to change too. And I think that can be a hard thing to adjust to. If you have a certain routine that this is what I do with my dog, this is when I clean, this is when I grocery shop or whatever, being willing to be flexible in those kinds of things and understand where your priorities really lie, lays with the kids and the dogs before the dusting. And so that's, I think, is something to try and incorporate. The other thing I was going to ask you is, with Noir being sensitive to children, did you try to do any kind of desensitization, like just go and sit at a playground and watch kids play and offer treats so that we're just watching and hearing and pay attention to what some of these noises and things are like around kids?
Yes, absolutely. Noir and I frequented playgrounds were probably the easiest place, where we would take a long line, stand off 50, 100 feet, play fetch. Now, her ball is super rewarding to her. Get some a little bit of that energy out, but while still creating that positive, inner connection between kids, ball. But also, just going hanging, taking her, her kibble, her breakfast, and going, look at those kids. Good job. Yes, here's a treat. Maybe moving a little bit closer. And and go, oh my gosh, gonna run her over. Can I pet the dog? And really using those moments to advocate and say, hey, no, she's shy or she's contagious or whatever, excuse you need, reason you need to use to say, hey, you can't pet her right now. Something that really works for me, you can toss her a treat. Don't enter her space. You can throw a treat to her. Throw some cheese to her. That really helped a lot in the beginning, even before I was pregnant. Having people do that on the rare instances when she was comfortable, right? Not every time. When she was like, oh, this person doesn't really bother me. Okay, let's take advantage of that, toss her a treat. That's enough. Of course, I'm not going to pet her. I'm not going to have you enter her space. But yeah, doing some desensitizing and counter conditioning to the sounds of kids, playing baby sounds on the TV and giving her a Kong to chew on. Before we came home from the hospital, I had my mom bring home, a blanket with Delilah's, smell on it. So that when she came into the house, it wasn't a brand new, smell. Where I was like, hey, when you go home, have her smell the thing, give her a treat for smelling it. Have her smell the blanket, give her a treat for smelling it. Specifically for my baby, but for kids, yes, absolutely. Playgrounds were probably the biggest one. We have parks all around where I live. And then up until that point, because she was 7 already, we had already done a lot with adults and people, just, kind of conditioning her and desensitizing her to them moving. One thing I wish we had done a little bit more of were kind of the rapid movements that kids do that adults don't necessarily do, that really freaked her out in the beginning that I didn't even necessarily think about. So when after baby was born, that was something we kind of had to work on. Baby would, suddenly, scream or, get startled by something, start crying. those kind of rapid, movements that kids do. That was something we really had to work on after baby was born. Conditioning and desensitizing to those things. So yes, but before then, playgrounds were probably the best. Not going, onto the playgrounds. I think some people might make that mistake going up like, hey, here's a kid, pet my dog, but just observing and letting the dog see the kids, letting them see what's going on and rewarding them just for existing in that same environment.
Yeah. When you were talking about the rapid movements, when I brought my Zuzu home, my current flat coat, I had my daughter and I think she had 4 kids at the time, was living with us, her husband had 4 kids. And Zuzu had come from a house with 2 adults and 8 dogs and no kids to a house with 4 adults, 4 kids, and no other dogs. And so it was really a difficult time for her. So one of the things that we did was I put a gate across my office and put a sign up that said Zuzu's alone zone, so that if she was in there with me, they knew not to come in. But I could do things, but they would, they fly down the hallway and I could try and counter condition her to those rapid movements because those were very unsettling to her. And so I think that's that's a really good point. The other thing is, I think too, that people don't think about, but I'm sure it's something that's really coming onto your radar at the moment, is the problems with kids and dogs can arise a lot more when the kids become mobile. When they're not moving, they're just making noises and stuff, it's a lot easier to control the environment, and it's probably a little bit less disturbing to dogs. But it's when kids become toddlers that I think other issues can really arise for dogs, because suddenly this thing, which was sort of, it smelled like a person, didn't act like a person, but it kind of smelled like a person, and it was like making noises and stuff. Now it's lurching at me. That's a whole new ball game. So I think that it's easy in some ways to become complacent that things are going really well and forget the fact that as time goes on, kids change and grow and become different in the way in which they interact with dogs. In addition, your dogs are also growing and changing and assuming that interactions are going to stay the same, and suddenly they don't. It can be a confusing time for them and for the kids. And that's a time, I think, when you have to have a little bit of extra vigilance. So I'm sure you probably feel that way too. Are you noticing that you feel like you need to be a little bit more vigilant at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Before Delilah was even crawling, she could, hang out in her little pack and play, look up at the mobile, and I could comfortably have the dogs, out and about around her. Now, I mean, she's sticking her hands over the pack and play. She wants to go over to where the dogs are. And so I think where we're having a lot of success is creating opportunities to have positive interactions between her and the dog. Where, she's holding things now. I might, she's starting to figure out how to throw things, or I might, give her a toy that she can throw and help her throw it for the dog, right? Where it's very much so monitored. And you're absolutely right. As they're getting more mobile, unfortunately, I think I can't remember exactly, when it happened. But it was my mom, and my Delilah, my daughter, and one of my mom's dogs, who we were at the house and my mom was watching her, and it's just kind of really brought back how clearly and quickly things can happen. Fortunately, nobody was hurt, but Delilah crawled over to the dog's bed. My mom didn't think it was, as much of a big deal. The dog just verbally corrected and snapped at the baby like they might at another dog, but that was very much so just safety. And so yes, I think as she gets more mobile, there isn't any, oh, I'm just gonna walk out in the room, go do this, come back while the dogs and her are out. No, it's very much so monitor interaction. Let's set up, if she wants to play with the dogs, let's set up a safe interaction where she can do something that her and the dogs enjoy. And if not, give the dogs their own space and her own space, and something for them to do while still being able to see each other. But like Tina said, with that air pocket between them. So yeah, as they get more mobile, gosh, I am noticing so many more places where I might have to implement. I have several X pens myself. Utilize those more than I have previously. Um, simply to if she's in her little walker, because she can really move in that thing now. Yeah, wanting to chase after the dogs. The cat can escape into its cat tree. But unfortunately,
It's a big thing, right? Like the kids love the dog, right? And I think parents sometimes get stuck in measuring intent too, right? Like, so the baby, Delilah has good intent, right? She sees Noir, who's beautiful. She wants to make friends with her. She goes over to Noir, and Noir does not view that as friendly, right? Noir views that as a ton of pressure. Well, for the average mama or dad, they're like, well, the baby wasn't doing anything. Like, why is the dog uncomfortable? The dog shouldn't be uncomfortable. The dog should love the baby because I love the baby, right? And I think one of the things that was really clear from the beginning was that you recognize this was a decision you and your guy were making for your family that was going to impact the dogs, but that the dogs did not. I mean, Vega might have chosen it, but I don't know that Noir would have necessarily chosen it. So I love that you're finding this really beautiful balance of excellent quality of life and support for Noir while not expecting her to be something she isn't. She's not a highly social dog. She's really a little bit more like a cat. So being able to say, here, you can go have a separate space, and getting her used to that probably took quite a bit of work.
No, it did. It definitely did. Noir, because I think you mentioned earlier, when we do have these really well-trained dogs that we put tons of work into, um, or tons of work into, we do develop this really close bond. And Noir is very much so like, I want to be where you are. Tell me what to do. What's next? Um, I work. I want to work with you. And so teaching her how to hang out on her own has been probably a very big hurdle for us. And making that a positive thing, not I'm just going to shut you behind the gate. Right? Like really setting on top of, having a baby and all these other things, really setting time to go. You're behind the gate. I think I haven't mentioned this, but something that was really, really benefits us is having treat stations, like around the house. Whether it's, their dog food, some freeze-dried stuff, something yummy, where I can go and, I'll be hanging out with Delilah and the baby. Noir is very obviously getting overwhelmed by the situation. We go, okay, Noir, let's put you behind the gate. Or, even, behind the gate. But there's a treat station, a little jar with treats beside where the gate is. So I can go tink, toss her a treat. Good job. So it's not, I'm upset removing you from the situation. It's, hey, let's play a game. Where I'm still meeting Delilah.
And Delilah will be able to do that first from your arms and then walking. And that's where an airlock is great, right? Because you can set it up so Delilah is throwing food to Noir on the other side of the second gate.
Oh, yeah,
That
absolutely.
you're not worried about Noir getting not that she would, but Vega getting impatient and jumping up and accidentally grabbing fingers. Even if nothing bad happens, it's still scary and startling for the baby, which tends to be scary and startling for the dog too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're talking about recognizing your dog for who your dog is. And Tina, I think you're absolutely right. I think people have this propensity to say, so-and-so wasn't doing anything. The dog shouldn't feel that way. Well, I don't know about you people, but I don't particularly care for people telling me how I should and should not feel, because it's kind of like that. You're right. I probably shouldn't feel that way, but the reality is I do. And I think we need to extend that same kind of grace to our dogs. Yeah, Zuzu probably shouldn't have gotten upset and ran the gate when Edward ran by, but she did, because that's disturbing to her. So let's deal with the reality of the situation rather than keep wishing for something that doesn't exist. So I was really glad you said that, Tina, because I think that is that real tendency to say, but they shouldn't. Yeah, probably shouldn't, but they do. So what are we going to do about that?
Well, and Noir, so Aishlyn, if you decide that you want this taken out, you can just put a flag on the play and we'll edit it out. But I'm going to tag kind of some early trainer mistakes you made with Noir that make this harder, because I think that real life is real life, right?
Yeah.
So early on, you were training Noir to be your service dog. The not being comfortable with people, like this is actually how Aishlyn and I met, was I was doing a CGC for Noir and I was praying that I wasn't going to get bitten by Noir, because
Why?
she was so stressed by the stranger approaches, greets the handler, asks permission to greet the dog, right? And now there's going to be touching of a stranger, right? Well, Noir, Aishlyn being young, right? She was super young. She was a new trainer. She's like, I'm going to tell you to sit and stay and hold that position and you'll be fine. And that's training, without realizing how much stress that was for Noir, right? So all the shadow. And so I had said to Aishlyn at the time that we did the CGC, which she passed, that I would really like to see Noir being more comfortable. Like, obvious that she's beautifully well trained, but I would like to change how she feels about things, not just what behaviors she gives. And I think for Aishlyn, that was like, oh, that's a part of the training too, because you were really focused on Noir being a good girl and being well behaved in public. Did I misstate that?
No, you're absolutely right. To me, it was, if I'm say sit, you're gonna sit. If I say lay down, you're gonna lay down. It wasn't you lay down and are you nervous about what you're laying down around? It was, very much so like just the skills, not the
You were
how.
going to be a great leader.
Right.
And you weren't mean. Like, none of your training was mean. Like, you were very positive overall in your training modality. I think where there had never been a conversation of the fallout that can happen when we're not paying attention to the feels of the dog. We're just building behavior.
Oh yeah, and she absolutely wanted to please and wanted to do these things, and even like, to this day, this kind of goes back to accepting who your dog is, which I was very hard for me. I wanted a very friendly, outgoing dog, and that's just not who Noir was. I have Vega now, who is, but I have learned and grown to love Noir for who she is, and I, you're absolutely right, and we can definitely include this um, because I was not, perfect. I knew how to teach the skills, but never had I really thought about focusing on, okay, she can stay 100 yards away. I can walk and then walk back to her. But is she happy about it? Is she comfortable in these environments, in these situations I'm putting her in? Why not? What can I do about that? How can I make it fun? How can I make it engaging? So yes, that's absolutely something that I had to grow as a trainer and as a person.
I think we all grow in it, right? That's part of it. I mean, it's part of it with having the baby too, right? Like right now, you can probably for the most part do Delilah's hair or dress her however you want to dress her, right? In another few years, she may decide that your taste and her taste are different, and she is not doing that. And she's going to be, I don't know, the only 6-year-old goth girl, which would be totally fine with all of us. We'd be like, that's Delilah, the goth girl. It's totally awesome. We love her. I would, and, I mean, that happens with our dogs too, that we usurp because we can their authority sometimes. And there can be some real fallout even moving forward. Like right now, some of the things, like I would assume that you have a little bit of baggage with Noir that you don't have with Vega because you raised her so differently. That I don't think you've ever put Vega in a situation where she didn't feel safe. She always thinks like, no, I'm totally fine. Like my mom's got me. I'm good. I don't have to worry about it. Where Noir didn't always have that. Not because you're not amazing, because you are. Not, you didn't do it intentionally, but it's still there. And it was there for a couple of years, right? That this was practiced. And so the dog, like Noir doesn't forget that.
No, of course not.
Not
Right.
holding a grudge.
Right. But behaviors you can't unlearn a behavior and you can't unlearn an emotion. So I think that one of the things that I try to emphasize with my clients is like, I'm so glad your dog can do stuff, but how are we feeling about it? Because eventually the emotion is going to overtake. If you push the emotion so hard that the dog is like, I am really, 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 really uncomfortable here, you're going to have a reaction that you may not want. And so emotions are important to attend to. I used to tell my kids that emotions are indicators, not dictators. If you're feeling strongly about something, that should indicate that perhaps action should be taken. It doesn't necessarily dictate the action you're going to take. And I think that that's something we need to remember with our dogs too, that their emotions are indications to us that some kind of action needs to be taken. What that action, it doesn't necessarily dictate what that action is, but it means that we need to pay attention. And it sounds like you have a really great handle on the situation at hand, and you're an inspiration for, I think, any new mom who's facing this situation. But I also think it's great that you're willing to say, yeah, this was a difficult situation, and that was hard, or I made a mistake with my dog here. Because trainers aren't perfect. We make mistakes all the time. Perhaps the advantage we have is we recognize it really quickly when we make these mistakes and perhaps know how to correct them. But is there anything else that you would give as advice to a young mom or dad?
Yeah. Just have grace for yourself. And take it slow. Like it's all right. To not do everything all at once. I'm very much so a go, go, go. Let's do this. Let's do this. Here's my plan. We're gonna do A, B, C by this date. But I have found that babies and dogs do not work on A, B, C. We
They
work
don't
on
have the same agenda that you have? Who
You're
knew?
kidding.
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with her, Tina.
It's not-
you and
I mean, is there a
probably have-
ticker tape? Is there a ticker tape parade every day for how awesome you are?
No, so having
You
some
get paid. You get paid in sticky kisses. That's what you get paid in.
yes, sticky kisses from babies, sticky kisses from dogs. So yeah, having grace. Giving yourself a break. We're gonna mess up. I mean, we're human. I'm a dog trainer. I've been doing this for several years now. And with every day, every interaction between them, I grow in understanding. And I adjust. So I think it goes back to what you said, Julie. Really being flexible. And keeping your dog's, and baby's best interests at heart. Not, I want, my baby to, I was fortunate for Delilah not to be scared of the dogs. But I'm sure that there are some moms and parents who might struggle with a baby who is, maybe not uncomfortable with, the dogs. Fortunately for me, barking was not much of an issue. But I think that for some families that could be. And so just being flexible with your situation and not comparing myself to others was really, big for me to learn and grow on, especially as a dog trainer who, some people might say, well, you should have it all under control. And that's just not the case, right? I mean, we're still, we still have dogs who may have, issues. And of course, our babies are their whole individual, independent, people, especially as they grow and start developing their personality. So having grace, be kind to yourself has been something that I constantly have to work on. And slowing down, right? Not going and doing everything that I think should happen, A, B, C, in said timeline. But instead really looking for those signs like, is my baby comfortable? Is my baby safe? Is my dog comfortable? Is my dog safe? Those kinds of things, and just being vigilant. I know that's more than just one thing, but I think it all kind of goes together, just being slowing down and giving yourself grace.
That's terrific advice. One thing I want to add is Family Pause website. We'll put a link to that. There's a lot of really good information for parents and kids, parents and babies, parents and toddlers, parents and teens. Lots of great information there with Jen Shyrock. The other thing is if you are feeling overwhelmed, if this whole situation is just like, whoa, Nellie, so much more than what I anticipated, get help. Reach out. There's lots of places to find a good positive reinforcement trainer, but get some help. Don't let the problem escalate to the point where you feel like there's no return. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to ask somebody for help. And if you need help finding a trainer, certainly you can contact Tina and I at Your Family Dog, and we can help you find a trainer. So I think that's really important. Aishlyn, I really do appreciate you coming on here today. I wondered, I was going to ask you too, how did you deal with the loss of a dog after the baby was born? How was that for your family?
Yeah. Well, of course, like any loss, it definitely wasn't easy. In our situation, it all happened very fast. The dog had just less than a year prior, his name was Oreo. Had clean blood work, had clean x-rays, he had a dental done, so all of his vet work was up to date and normal. And within like a week, he just suddenly deteriorated, and the vet thinks it was probably some form of cancer. But we were fortunate enough to, have people in place where, like, for example, the daycare that I use occasionally for Delilah, to be able to take her there, and then take Oreo. And in his case, he did end up being put to sleep. I don't think that Delilah was quite old enough to really understand, that he was really gone, or to really explain any loss or what death is to her in any way. But Oreo was a really fantastic, very stable dog, cool in teaching Delilah how to, gently pet and touch an animal without having to worry he's going to do anything. So losing, a companion that we, really trusted and had a lot of faith in when it came to her, was definitely really hard. Because then that, her desire to hang out with and play with dogs, we don't necessarily have that in the two that we have now. And so I think just like with everything, we took it slow, and really took our time, to grieve him, as much as I can, and giving myself grace. I don't keep saying grace, but between kids and dogs, I needed a lot of it. And so
that's like a big, huge piece of it, is recognizing that there's going to be lots of resets and lots of like, okay, that didn't go badly, but it could have. And so what's my plan? And I really wish people would just ask for help, right? Not trying to think of a solution on the fly. I think a lot of times, trainers and behavior support people can really pull something out of our back pocket that a family may not have thought of.
Yeah. And
that's a super easy answer.
Yeah. And so that I had mentioned earlier too, that if this is becoming overwhelming and it's really hard and you can't manage it, seek help sooner rather than later. it will be well worth your while to get your help sooner rather than later, so you can really get you and your family back on track, because it's uncomfortable to be in a situation that you feel is out of control. So, well, thank you so much, Aishlyn, for joining us today. It's been really valuable to have you on board. I wish you all the best of luck. And when you have that second baby, come back. Tell us what it's like to have 2 dogs and 2 kids, because we'd love to hear your opinion on that, too.
Oh, I'd love to. We may have more dogs at that point, too.
That's right.
Are there plans for that soon?
Maybe. We'll see. Definitely plans for more dogs. I don't know about children yet.
I don't know yet. Jury's still out.
Yes.
Well, thank you for trusting us with your family and for coming on the Your Family Dog podcast. I'd love to have you back.
Oh, I'd love to come back. Thank you so much. I do.
Anything else you want to share?
No. You said the last little note that I have here, which was, if you, even before you have baby, if you have, some serious issues with, your dog that need to be, addressed, or that you even might think might need to be addressed, seek help. That way you're not putting you, your dog, your baby, anybody at risk. So, and then we already touched on that. So, but no, I really appreciate you inviting me on here. And anytime you want to have somebody back, I'd be more than happy to come.
Great. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Your Family Dog. Got questions? Interesting ideas? Visit www.yourfamilydogpodcast.com to share your thoughts.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.